Afternoon, good evening, everyone. I know we have somebody from West Africa, so I'll include good evening. My name is Olumide Abiola. I have over 20 years experience working within the technology domain. I started off as a systems administrator, moved into networking and infrastructure engineering. I've also had held roles as IT specialist in different capacity, integration, security consultants, before moving into project management about maybe 12 to 15 years ago. So over the years, I've had the privilege of delivering and managing a number of IT and cybersecurity projects, mainly within the financial sector. I think I've been in the financial sector for almost like forever, maybe since 2008. Yep, in the UK. So I've been within the sector. So if somebody was to ask me for my strength, I would say my strength is in as a delivery professional, is in my ability to bridge the gap between technology execution and project delivery for value proposition. So if I have to put it in a more or less way, I'd say I speak both the tech language and the business language fluently. So that has been my strength. I'm excited to be here with you guys today, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of the insights that will serve as a guide for those that are looking to go into the project management field. A bit of housekeeping before we proceed. I'd say let's kindly put ourselves on mute if not speaking. I know a lot of times we do this unconsciously. I've spoken, I forgot to speak, put myself on mute, then something happens, distracts the rest of the team. So let's quickly put ourselves on mute. Then I'd say due to anticipated time constraints, I will advise we make a note of whatever questions we have for the end of the session, so that we're going to be more coordinated, and we don't want to really overshoot and not cover every aspect we really want to cover. And generally speaking, I would say let's be cautious, let's be respectful of others, and I think let's enjoy the session. Okay. So just a bit of a call out here quickly. I just want to say I tend to speak very fast. So I'm trying to cautiously speak slowly. So if I get too slow to an irritating level, please pardon me. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm able to communicate without really losing you guys in my chain of thought. So just an FYI there. So for the introduction, in this session, I'll be touching on the definition of a project. I'll be looking at the meaning of project management, and also kind of highlight why we think project management is an essential skill in today's world. So what is a project? A project can be defined as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create unique product, service, or result. So value proposition here. So by temporary endeavor, we mean it has a defined beginning and end. So it's not something that goes forever. There must be a start date and an end date. We will say unique product, service, or result will mean there is a specific objective. So we stand up a project to deliver something. There must be an objective. So we need to cut that out there. Then lastly, I would say a project will always operate under some certain constraints. So when we talk about constraints, we're talking about things like timeline, beginning and end, the budget, which is the financial allocation, and the resourcing. So those are some form of the constraint that we're talking about. I spoke with Boyo yesterday. We got talking about the 3 pillars of project management. Just an FYI, it's always going to be time, budget, objective, or scope, or quality all together. So those are the 3 pillars of project management. Now, an example of a project includes, like if you're launching a new application or a product. So just launching, I'm not talking about developing like just a new process, anything. It could be a project because there could be a lot of stuff. If you guys have been involved before, maybe like moving offices, it's a project because you need to coordinate, you need to plan. There has to be money allocated. You need to look for a way. Are we buying new set of furnitures, or are we moving the old furnitures to the new location? What internet services do we need? What other things do we need? The security? What's going to be the transition period? So those are the kind of things we're looking at. I know real estate is a big thing in Canada now. I hope a lot of us are in Canada, based in Canada or North America. So when you talk about constructing a building, it could be one of those high-rise condos, it could be medium-rise, it could be like single-family homes in an estate. So all this has to be, well, they are all projects because you're delivering something. And going back to technology, it could be a case of implementing a new IT system. So in the world we're in today, we have our mobile phones. We do a lot of stuff on our mobile phone. So let's talk about banking. I need money from Boyo. Boyo is just going to log into his account to do one or two stuff, and the next thing is sending me money. So, like when you build these systems, those are examples of projects. So the next is, what is project management? So by definition, I would say project management is the process of planning, organizing, overseeing the successful execution of a project from the point of initiation, which is the start point, to the completion. So this typically involves applying some knowledge, skills, tools, techniques to ensure that we're able to deliver this project to meet our specific goals, timeline, budget constraints, while also trying to manage all the associated risk, the resources, and very importantly, stakeholder expectation. Stakeholder expectation, you can never overemphasize it. And I'll quickly digress here. People say project fails, project have issues. As long as you're able to manage the stakeholders very well, I think you're still going to be in a good place if things go wrong. So there are processes where you could use, like project chain control, PCRs, and everything. But the key thing is stakeholder engagement. Let them be aware proactively. And I think I'll touch base a little bit on those areas as we move on. So to define this in simple terms, I'll say project management ensures that projects are delivered on time, within scope, and on budget, while meeting desired quality standard. Very important, quality standard. That's where you capture the scope to make sure that whatever you're delivering is fit for purpose. Okay. Lastly, looking into why project management is an essential skill. So I'd say, like, as you guys are aware, the current business landscape, like our sister from West Africa just mentioned about ADP, Global Village. You apply for a role, and your role is actually going to be based on the country which you are in. You get the money on that. So, I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, if anybody, or let's put it more like 20, 30 years ago, if anybody told you that could happen, you wouldn't believe it. So now we're in a place where you could sit down somewhere in Africa, enjoying your, village atmosphere. As long as you have good internet, you can be working everywhere, anywhere. You could be in Bahamas somewhere under the coconut tree, enjoying some fresh coconut water by the beachside, and you're still doing your job. So those are the kind of dynamism we've seen in the current business landscape. So one thing for sure is it's fast-paced, it's result-oriented, at the same time, it's heavily technology-driven. So in essence, the ability to plan, to execute, to adapt, using a structured approach becomes increasingly valuable in the scheme of things. So it's a no-brainer. We just have to make it happen. So by implication, I would say project management is, based on that, an essential skill in today's world. For you to be competitive, for you to stay with your competitive advantage, deliver value. And we all know that the key things you need in today's world is to deliver value. Once you can work on the value, every other thing falls in place. So on this page, I would say lastly is, for newcomers looking to pivot into project management, I'd say it's very essential. It's important to kind of understand the foundational skills, the strategies and the mindset that is needed to kind of set you up for success. Okay, on the next slide, we kind of want to deep dive into, and I kind of captured it, why project management. What are the things, why do we say project management is essential? Why do you want to go into it? So project management, is increasingly in high demand, like I believe most of you are aware, across virtually every industries you can think of. I talked about construction. I gave an analogy of construction and technology. And could it be technology? Talk about healthcare, talk about within the financial sector, the construction sector. Organizations typically rely on project management to ensure the successful rollout of whatever outcome they desire. And it's a way to make sure everything is properly done. So for a lot of these organizations, it's becoming increasingly important to manage projects efficiently, as the success, it's kind of tied to the criticality and the success is kind of tied to staying, competitive and continue to deliver value to their clients. From a career perspective, project management offers growth opportunities, generally speaking. So I'd say as a project manager, you're not just overseeing tasks or activities. You're actually the forefront. You're leading initiatives, you're making impactful decisions, and you're kind of influencing the strategic direction of what you're doing within an organization. So, I could be a project manager. I'm like maybe 15 layers from our CEO. But even at that, even though the CEO, the executive, the senior VPs, executive VPs, it's a long chain. But you'll be surprised that as a project manager, you're also dealing with strategic direction, because whatever you're doing is feeding up through the value chain to the executive leadership. So you're picking up a lot of stuff from there. And this makes it a highly rewarding contract, in my own opinion. And it comes with the opportunities to manage diverse and very complex projects. And I'll go a little bit deeper as time goes on. I just don't want to drag us too much. But these are the values. By the time you start handling complex projects, you're sitting in front of VPs, SVPs, delivering, reports, solutions. What other confidence do you need, or something to prepare you for leadership than that? So, one key benefit of project management, as well, in addition to the good things we've talked about, is that it equips you with some very important transferable skills. So when you say project management, it's not just like any other technology skill, like IT infrastructure, like software development, where what you do as a developer, you're coding stuff. It's limited to only software development. But in project management, you're kind of having those transferable skills that are highly valued in the current landscape, the dynamic job market that we're dealing with today. So we're talking about skills like communication, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about problem solving, we're talking about strategic planning, and these are part of project management, but they're not just relevant to only project management. They are critical in almost every profession, every role you play, because that's what really sets you aside. So I would say mastering these skill sets, actually does set you up, for leadership position. And I'll put a caveat there. Personally, I think project management is one of the easiest way to advance your career or to move to leadership position, particularly when you're stuck in a place. So, and I'll speak from a technology standpoint here. Like I've seen a lot of senior technology folks, any area of IT, that when they are stuck, they've done it for 20, 25, 30 years, and they find out that they're not really moving up the ladder. They move into project management, and before you know it, they're moving up into senior manager roles, director roles, etc. So that's my personal opinion. Okay. For this slide, we're going to be looking at some of the key skills. I think will be these transferable skills that we need to develop, as part of our project management journey. So first and foremost, communication and stakeholder management. And I believe I already talked a little bit about stakeholder management. So to add to that, I'll say one of the most critical aspects of project management is being able to clearly articulate, very important, project goals, project updates, changes to all stakeholders, everybody involved. You need to be able to write in a way that is good for the executives so that, like we all know with our leadership, they don't have enough time. They have a lot of 1,001 things to do. So you need to be able to summarize the key points, what you need, what you're proposing, what will let them make a decision. You need to be able to do that. Now, at the same time, you need to be able to communicate with all your key stakeholders as well, not just the executives. For the technical folks, you need to be able to kind of manage them well, give them enough information that they need to be able to complete their jobs. So those are very important. So, and it's always very important, and I think I mentioned this as well earlier, to kind of manage stakeholder expectations, transparently and consistently, with good communication. This actually builds trust. And once you're able to build those trust, the project momentum, would not fade away. It's going to continue. So very important. And I would like to highlight that trust, building trust. Even when things are going wrong, once you build that trust, people kind of calm down and they say, okay, yeah, there's a problem. What is the solution? But if there's no trust, that's going to be a big issue. Even when there's no issue, everybody's suspicious. Okay, the next is the organization skills. And this is like project management 101. You just have to be creative. You have to kind of look at things holistically and be able to break them down. So I'd say to be an effective project manager, you should know how to plan. Very important. You should know how to prioritize, and you should be able to execute efficiently. And the word efficiently in quotes. Now, this means that you should be able to look into what you're trying to deliver and be able to break it down in terms of the project into manageable steps and sizes and be able to track the progress and how it fits into the overall scheme of things in terms of what you're tracking against. So in terms of these, there are tools like, you talk about tools like a Gantt chart, Kanban board. There are many other tools. This will help you visualize these tasks, show you the different steps and the timeline. And with that, you'll be able to navigate and report efficiently. So planning, organization skills, very important. So risk and issue management is another vital skill you need to look at. And in some industries, particularly while I was living in the UK, risk was a very, very big thing. It's like some departments have a dedicated risk. There's some organizations have a dedicated risk and issue department where they do a lot of calculations, complex calculations, and everything. They just don't want to say identify the risk, what is the probability, what is the impact. No, they do big calculations behind the scene to really kind of buttress the point and kind of know exactly what they are tailoring against. So it's very important to be proactive when identifying potential risk in the project you're handling. You should be able to kind of manage the developing a mitigation strategy as well, working with the team. And these two items actually could kind of contribute towards how successful your project is going to be. So it could be the line between a successful project and a failed project, risk management. So, and I'll say it's also important to remain adaptable and, when unexpected challenges or things arise, you should be able to quickly adjust, plan to minimize the disruption so that it doesn't really knock you too much off what you want to do. So one thing I always tell to people is always expect things to go wrong and plan in advance. And that kind of captured the whole idea about risk management. So between a risk and an issue, so a risk is something we believe can happen. And when it happens, it becomes an issue. So part of the risk is we identify it, we do all the different processes, and we keep tracking it. We have our mitigation plans to say, yes, this is how we would avoid it. And also, if it eventually happens and becomes an issue, this is the step we're going to take as well. So finally, looking into the technical proficiency, which is another important part. And I mean, the scope in this technical proficiency can be, we can view it in different ways. So it could be in terms of understanding the subject matter, but from a project management perspective, I'll limit it to the tools we use, the software. So it's always very important to learn to use the project management softwares. It could be, I think one of the key ones we use mainly, the most popular is MS Project, Microsoft Project Product. We have other solutions like Asana now. There's Jira. There are many tools out there, so I'm not really campaigning for any. Then also when you look at from an enterprise perspective, in terms of in very large organizations, there are things like Clarity, there's Plan View, and all this, learning it was going to really, really help you a lot. So I'd say in addition to this as well, you could also talk about having good understanding of technical skills like budgeting. So when we talk about budgeting, you talk about your forecast versus your actuals, tracking to see when you start moving away or deviating from your actual plans. Then you talk about things like calculating accruals, resource allocation, being able to use the spreadsheet efficiently. So like when you're doing your budget planning, like if I say I have a resource that charges $50 an hour and it's going to work for 10 hours, every time I see him, am I going to say $50 times 10 equals to 500? Or can I code it into a spreadsheet so that all I need to do is to fit in the information? This is the guy's rate. This is the number of hours he's working, and I get my total, figures for every resource that is working on the project. So Excel sheet is also very important. So in all, I'll say developing these skills will actually set you up for success, when managing wide range of projects. And I mean, there are no limitations to this. So talking about education and certification. So like having spoken about the skills, the next level is to actually look at what you need to do in terms of education and what the available options are, the easiest way to kind of pivot you from where you are to the next level. My favorite, starting with self-learning. So never underestimate the value of self-learning. So personally, most of the training I've done, except from few where it was mandatory to go for specific trainings, I default to self-learning. It works for me. It may not work for you, but I'm just kind of saying, I know a lot of people underestimate it. I like setting myself up, do things my own way, which works very well for me. So I'd say self-learning. There are countless online courses, webinars. There are so many tutorials that can help you build on the foundational knowledge. You need to stay up to date. And also looking at things like emerging trends. So these are areas that you can actually, get things done. So there are platforms. You have the Coursera, you have the one from Google, you have LinkedIn Learning. There are also a lot of resources on Project Management Institute, PMI resources. That is a great way to start. And the almighty YouTube. So I said to people on this, in as much as YouTube has all the entertainment, most of the movies you want to watch, I can tell you authoritatively that YouTube also has any training you want to do. If you Google any specific training now, you're going to see 1,000,001 versions, different people, good ones, bad ones, middle ones, but you should be able to pick to see which works for you. So I always go to YouTube any day. Even when I'm doing stuff in the office, my first point of call if I have any question is YouTube. I like using things like a Microsoft Office suites, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I don't bother memorizing things anymore because this version, they keep changing. We moved from Office 2000 to 2003 to 2007 to Office 360. I mean, I don't bother cramming these things anymore because I'm using 360 now. I could get a new job and they're still going to be on Office 2007 and I have to start thinking. So my first point of call is always YouTube. I just go to YouTube, put in my question, everything is on YouTube. So I'll put that out there. The next option is formal education, which, for those that prefer structured learning. Like I said, I'm self-learning. I know some people prefer structured learning. They want to go to class. They want to interact with a human. They want to be able to ask questions live and direct and get answers. So if that is your style, please, you can look into the formal education. While it is not a requirement. We have to make it clear. Pursuing a degree or a certificate in project management can actually enhance your learning and your credibility. So, and in maybe some cases, it could expand the opportunity. So it might not be common, but I've actually come across some job requisitions where they specifically ask for project management certificate, not professional certification in terms of education, be it a master's in project management or a postgraduate certificate in project management. So if you want to explore this option, there are many universities and colleges I'm aware within Canada that offers programs. And I think, there are many, even organizations like Rogers, they have different programs as well. So you can also explore that. Moving to the next one, we'll be talking about the certifications. So from a certification perspective, I kind of picked on three. Certified Associate in Project Management. This is mainly for beginners. PMP, that's Project Management Professionals. This is for the more experienced candidates. So those two are offered by the Project Management Institute. They are the gold standard. Then the next is the Prince 2. So for those in West Africa, in Western Europe, in UK, Prince 2 is more recognized in those areas, while PMI or PMP, CAPM is more for the North America. So if you talk about US, Canada, and some of the other Northern American countries, that is what is recognized. So to kind of deep dive into this, certifications are highly valued in project management profession. And so, as I mentioned, your starting point, if it's PMI, if you're in North America, should be certified associate in project management. And I'll kind of talk a little bit more about this when we get to the next slide. And CAPM is the entry level, so there is no prerequisite requirement. You could go in with a school certificate or high school diploma, and you meet up with requirement, which is on the next page. So this will kind of help you build a foundational knowledge of project management, the principles and the practices. So it's a good start. So PMP is, if you Google it, it's going to tell you it's the gold standard. I've seen it a lot, so many times. And this actually demonstrates your knowledge of advanced, and your advanced knowledge and experience within the field. So it means that you're able to direct projects. So I know far back, I know the market, the job market has kind of changed a little bit over the last 15 to 20 years, but I knew for sure that about 15, 20 years ago, passing a PMP would almost guarantee you a project management job in US and Canada, even without experience, like without having the real hands-on experience, just having the PMP, because PMP is very rigorous. And it is taking that the minute you can pass it, it means you actually know it, you can do it. So I just want to put that out there. What's applicable today, I'm not 100% sure. And, like kind of digressing a little bit here, I met some people some 15 years ago and we got talking. And somebody said, oh, yeah, today, you don't need a PMP, you don't need project management certifications and everything. And I was like, guys, it might be that way today. It might be your personal dynamics or your personal circumstances. But I'm telling you, it's always good to be 2 steps ahead of the crowd. And that's what we're having today. You put up a project management role out there, just one role, and there are like 120 people, 1,000 people applying for those roles. And there are so many tools that does the kind of filtering. And one of the first filters you do is PMP, the 4 years of experience and everything. So you could imagine if you don't have a PMP, I can tell you that it's going to be almost impossible in today's job market to be selected for interviews. So I just wanted to put that out there. So in the next slide, I've kind of done a bit of a comparison between CAPM and PMP. So I'm just going to quickly go into that. Sorry, I did a double click here. Okay, so CAPM, target audience, entry level, PMP, professional level. The exam fee, you have two fees, PMI members and non-PMI members. So my observation is, I believe the membership for PMI is $141 per annum, and this is US dollars, mind you. So if you're doing a PMP, it actually gives you a saving of $109. However, there's no saving if you're doing a CAPM, and I think they did that kind of strategically. So they want more people to join, to kind of explore. They make it cheaper, so you can explore what they have to offer, and after that, it's your choice on what you want to, if you want to continue. So validity next is 5 years for CAPM, 3 years for PMP. The exam length is 150 questions, CAPM, 180 questions, PMP. Very hands-on, kind of practical-like questions, which is why passing it is deemed to be, something very good. Then we'll look at the exam time as well, 180 hours versus 230. Then for eligibility, as I mentioned earlier, you just need a high school diploma. And for PMI exams, they want you to do a PMI accredited training, 23 hours minimum. So you need to do that in addition. Now for the PMP, there is like a variance of 3 different options, and I'll quickly just go into that. So sorry, I didn't kind of acknowledge where I got this from. So I'll make sure for copyright purpose, I would include that before I send it to Boyo. So this is a screenshot from PMI website, and there are 3 different options. So if you have a high school, you need a 5 years experience leading or managing projects, over the last 8 years. And in this case, it's going to be 35 hours of project management education. The option 2 is if you have a first degree. So it's going to be 3 years experience, also 35 hours project management education and training. And the last one there is your BSc plus a GSC accredited program. So there's a specific programs like a higher level than the PMI authorized or accredited program. So that is different. So, and you can always go to the PMI website to explore this. So those are the 3 categories or options that are available. So I'm going back to the slide where we came from. So let me quickly kind of talk about the Prince 2 year. So as mentioned, Prince 2 is recognized more in the UK and in the western side of Europe. It stands for Project in Controlled Environment. There are 2 levels in Prince 2. So Prince 2, you have the foundation, and you also have the practitioner, and you need to either have the foundation or some other project management certification before you can do the practitioner. So, and I'll leave it at there. So in all, pretty much all we're saying is, combining the formal education, certifications, ongoing self-learning, it kind of gives you, it gets you well prepared, to kind of break into that area of project management, which is why we're in this call today. So I would highlight that those 3 very important. Okay. So having covered the education aspect, the certifications, I would like to move into one of the questions that will always come up. How do I get experience? And in all fairness, this is also very essential. when mastering the process. So you can read, you can study, but you need to look for a way to get the experience as well, which puts you on a kind of a better position to kind of get those jobs. And like I always, when I speak to people, I speak to mentees, I always highlight that the way somebody that is experienced will answer a question is completely different from the way the other guy that just read or is academic. So there are questions that go out there. You just going straight into definition. Like I'll give you an example. If somebody says, "What are the three pillars of project management?" Somebody that has studied will just go in and say, "Okay, yeah, we're talking about budget, we talk about timeline, we talk about scope." But somebody that is experienced could kind of deep dive into each of those. Could talk about budgets, calling out, forecast versus actuals, how you manage it throughout the life cycle of the project. Somebody could talk about scope. Kind of I like to say, yes, even though when we started up, we had a lockdown scope, but things have changed. So we need to change the scope. We need to add some new stuff, and we need to kind of submit a PCR, run it through the chain, get it approved, we baseline the project and get it done. And pretty much, I just wanted to kind of give you guys an example of how somebody that is experienced would answer based on what they've seen in the real sense, and how some of them may kind of deviate from the theory a little bit, move you around just to show, your level of experience. So a good way to start is to gain hands-on experience by volunteering for projects. I know questions will always come up, and I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. There's no one fit all for this. It's going to be based on circumstances, but we need to be creative. Very important. And I'm going to say be creative, be proactive several times in this session. So you can start small by taking on by taking on project-oriented tasks within your current role. So I know there are times we get called out to say, okay, I want you to do this from your current role. You could actually present it as a mini project to your boss. Okay, yeah, we want to do this. Okay, this is what the plan is going to be. This is how we're going to do it. And you run it as a mini project. And with that, you can actually get your experience. So, for example, you can offer to coordinate things like meetings. Meeting is one key important aspect of project management. You always have to be in meetings. You have to, coordinate this stuff, make sure you're delivering results, then be able to track progress and kind of, start up minor initiative within your current role. So all I'm saying is, whatever your role is today, can you switch your hat around a little bit to say, okay, let me treat what I'm doing as a project. And you will be shocked at how it could move you from where you are to the next level. So, and this experience, they add up, and they kind of help you build a portfolio of skills. Another valuable approach is to shadow an experienced project manager. Very important. So, um, within your organization, if you're part of a project, you can actually sit down there and shadow how the project manager is navigating issues, like how they do the project plan, how they break it into the phases, from the initiation to the planning to the execution to the closure. This will give you like a practical insight that you can't always, learn from books or courses, like, and I would say this experience is very useful for understanding how to tackle challenges. So taking a step back, all I'm saying is most of us in our roles, we're part of projects. We do stuff as part of project, not as a project manager. It's just about you now taking intentional steps to kind of watch how the project manager is doing things. And I can tell you it's worked for people. I've advised people to do it, and I've actually seen it, work for them. So the next is case study and simulation. So you could try to actually replicate. So when I used to train a family member, I always try to use the job the person has done in the past, the The person worked in a bank, different banks in Nigeria before relocating. And anything I do, I try to kind of relate it to you. Just tell me what you've done. Tell me what you did as part of this. It could be merger and acquisition. It could be upgrade. It could be there's a supervised software, Pinnacle or something that Nigerian banks use and everything. And once they tell me that, I try to use it to create like a case study, like a simulation, something, because if you can relate it to something you have done, it's easier for you to kind of understand it. So replicate real world scenarios, allow for practical decision making, all simulation, talk about the risk management. So was it, I can't remember, sometimes last year, GTB did a major upgrade, everything got screwed up, the online banking was down for more than a week or something. And these are the kind of things you were involved in that you can actually say, okay, what did we do wrong? Let's look at it from a risk management perspective. Did they flag it as a risk? And if they did, because I would say that it's a poor job in risk management, because with proper risk management, you would have captured this and you would have planned for it. And the worst case is a rollback. So within your risk management, for example, you would have said, okay, this is our limit. If we get to this point and we've not fixed the problem, and it's always, like most big upgrades start on Fridays and on Monday morning. So you would have captured it to say, okay, our worst case scenario is by, let's say, 12 midday. By 12 in the morning, 12 a.m. in the morning on Monday, if we've not fixed all the agreed amount of percentage of issues or the kind of criticality, then we would roll back. And as part of the planning, you would have captured how long does it take to roll back. So if you say rollback is going to take 4 hours, then we say, okay, yeah, we could say 2 a.m. if you guys understand what I'm trying to do. So these are the kind of planning you need to get in place. Then also resource allocation. So the resources you need, resources can be servers, can be people, can be software, it could be anything. So very important on that. So one other thing is, it helps you build that critical thinking skills that you need to actually boost your confidence, and also to manage complex situations. Like I was kind of avoiding to go too deep so that I don't get you guys confused. But like you see the way I'm talking now, I'm already building scenarios, taking in ideas, trying to kind of add them up to see how it flows. So lastly, we'll be looking at networking. Very important. And I give it to you guys. I know most of you guys are not new to this event. Coming to these places, meeting up with people, talking to people within the community, attending events, participating in workshop. It's always very important. Don't go there with the intention of being selfish. Be ready to give, be ready to take. Build genuine connection with fellow professionals. If you fake it, people are going to read through you like a mirror straight away, and nobody's going to show interest. So go in there, have a genuine intention to connect with people. Then, that helps you stay updated with latest practices, and even could give you mentorship opportunities, like I know most of the guys here are. So very important. So I'd say, to sum this page up, I would say getting the practical experience is about being proactive, seeking the learning opportunities wherever possible, and, combining the hands-on work with guidance from experienced professionals will actually fast track your journey and how you move into what you're doing today into project management. Okay. I know this is going to be more of Michael Boyo's strengths, but I just needed to kind of touch on it. And if Boyo wants to add, you could always add when we get to the Q&A session. So I'm going to build all the nice things we've talked about around experiences, soft skills. It's also very, very important on, how you brand yourself, how you make yourself marketable. And this will actually help you stand out from the crowd in terms of how you get your employment. So, and I know Boyo spoke about it a while ago. You can never underestimate the power of branding, marketing, and presenting yourself in a networking places, in a networking opportunities. So I say, firstly, start to developing a strong resume. Make sure you highlight all the beautiful things we've talked about, your leadership qualities, your problem-solving abilities. Try to include specific projects that you've managed and practiced, that you've actually delivered. Showcase how you've managed to actually fix challenges that are unexpected, that jumps out at you. Generally, when people are looking to employ, they talk to you during an interview, they want to see the way you think. So a strong resume will get you through the door, but how you're not doing an interview will be the one to actually determine if you're going to stay in or you're going to exit. I mentioned this briefly just now, so very important to kind of showcase the projects you've done. So one of the things I do in my resume is I have my projects and I list it there. And I've had people call me specifically for similar projects. So, just put them in there, show your success. Always speak about your lessons learned. These are the lessons learned at the part that actually kind of really prove to your potential employees that you actually do have the knowledge and the experience. So use your numbers where possible, like how you've been able to kind of improve efficiency in terms of projects, how some of the deliverables have saved cost, and just have a list of your portfolio of achievements to showcase when asked. Okay. LinkedIn presence, very important. I would raise my hand. I'm a little bit of an introvert when it comes to online presence. I don't do social media. The only social media you see me on is LinkedIn. And even at that, if you go to my profile, I only have my jobs in there. So in as much as I'm advising you, I'm also a culprit of this, but I'll tell you, it works. Have a good presence in LinkedIn, use the opportunity to connect with, professionals in the field, like project managers, join the relevant groups that are relevant to what you're trying to do. Regularly just share a little bit of insight, create a little bit of content, let people know you are out there, and I'd say it's actually an excellent platform. I love it. It's good. There are discussions that come up there, things you don't know exist, that just randomly going into LinkedIn, you see these things and it kind of puts you abreast of the trends. Then, like generally just engaging with the community. So I do a lot of that now. I was never doing that because I've always believed in being a professional and doing your job diligently. But I tell you, the way we start today, things have kind of moved away from that. So you can't just be that guy, that very solid guy in the basement. I'm telling you, you stay in the basement, you're going to be in the basement forever. So the last one there is talking about the soft skills. So project management isn't only about the technical know-how. You need to be able to kind of work with people, very important, be able to kind of get people to get things done, build trust, build communication, have transparent communication with people. And with that, you kind of demonstrate your ability to collaborate, because everything we do in the workplace today, it's all about collaboration. We collaborate with people. You're not going to do things yourself. You need at home, you need somebody to do the dish, you need somebody to do the washing, you need somebody to clean, you help each other at home, at office. You need a developer in your team, one or two developers, you need a QA analyst, you need a technology lead, you need an infrastructure person. So, and it goes to that point. And if you work in a very large organization, you have to just collaborate. Different teams have different accountability, different responsibilities. And, so collaboration is very important. So, and I think communication as well. I'd say being a well-rounded communicator, a team player, and, this will actually boost how you're perceived within the field and within your potential employer. So, final thoughts. So as we wrap up, I want to kind of leave behind, some key takeaways. Some I've mentioned a little bit, but I'll kind of buttress on them here. Stay agile. So you should always try to be agile, because the field is very dynamic, and not just project management, it's everything you do. It's constantly changing. Organizations continue to spend billions on research and development to create an improved way and a more efficient way to do things. So things change from time to time. Years back, we only have development. Now we have DevOps. We have, different things. We have automation, orchestration. You have DevSecOps. So you have to be agile, and you should be able to adapt to work with whatever is thrown at you. And there's always changes, like methodologies being changed, best practices emerging from time to time. So to kind of stay above, you need to be agile. You need to make it an habit to keep learning, very important. Your learning could be through courses, it could be through certifications, it could just be simply just going into LinkedIn once in a while. I know somebody that every Saturday, 2 hours, goes online to just read about the latest trend. I know everybody, the buzzword today is AI. The guy just goes in, looks into AI, everything. So with that, he has a dedicated 2 hours every week to kind of know what is happening. So looking at project management specifics here, I'd say being agile, kind of buttressing on being agile here. We've seen a lot of changes in organizations in terms of how project management methodologies are adopted. And we've seen organization transition from waterfall methodology to agile and vice versa. And when I say vice versa, I've actually heard of organizations that actually moved to agile. Then for some reason, maybe agile didn't work for them, or they were not well equipped in in terms of knowledge and everything. So they had to change back to waterfall. So there's an ongoing conversation every time, the conversation between the waterfall and agile. People raise questions. Can agile work for cybersecurity projects or governance or regulatory projects? Then it's always come up. Then people talk about the limitation of agile as well. Like when you say agile, I know when agile started, it started in a small place for developers, so it was always within a development team. But as time went on, it started expanding, and with things like a scaled agile framework, which is safe, they've been able to kind of move agile away from just a development team or technology team to a business agility functionality at the enterprise level. And I know a lot of tier one organizations that are moving in that direction, adopting safe. So the next is mentorship. Always good to seek guidance from seasoned professionals, project managers in this case, who can actually offer you insights, from their own experience. So I joined one of these sessions about 2, 3 months ago, and the question came up about, free and paid mentorship. So, I mean, whatever the case is, get some form of mentorship. If you have to get to the point where it has to be paid for, please go ahead, but it's your choice. I belong to some professional cybersecurity bodies, and I know a lot of the organizations are actually doing free mentorship programs. So peer mentees with mentors to help guide them through the journey. So I would encourage you to look out for those opportunities as well. And even within your workplace, seek and you shall find. You'll be surprised that within your workplace, there are some group of people that actually sit together to provide this. So I know for sure, I'm part of some in my company. So I would say just explore that. One of my favorite quotes: don't just wait for opportunities to come to you, create them. So I would say be proactive, be it whatever way works for you, be it volunteering for projects, be it suggesting new initiatives for your team, your organization, be it actively networking or taking initiatives, these things will actually make a difference. So I'd say, please, let's explore that. Lastly, embrace the importance of resilience. Very, very important to maintain a positive mindset, to focus on solutions, not the problem, and learn from experience. So project management can be demanding. It might not be that bed of roses like it sounds. There could be setbacks, things go wrong. Not sure if you guys are aware, there was a major incident early this week with Bell. I don't think of the details yet, but at the end of the day, I know it's going to be something to do with an IT change. That's what the case is always at. So you could imagine you are the project manager doing a major change, something goes wrong, it impacts like half of Canada. So I'll say always expect it. Things will go wrong. It's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you're able to get up, put it behind you, learn from your mistakes, and move on. So to summarize, I'd say project management offers you that dynamic and your rewarding career path. You can be successful, transitioning from what you're doing today into the field and making a lasting impact, while building the right skills. Very important. And, getting the practical experience that positions you strategically to take the next step. So, and I think lastly, very important. Sorry for saying that word several times. Stay agile, seek mentorship, be proactive, and be resilient.